In the year 2147, humanity had reached a point where space exploration was no longer just a dream. People lived on colonies scattered across nearby star systems, and technology had advanced far beyond what anyone could have imagined centuries earlier. Among these pioneers was Captain Daniel Carter, a calm and experienced astronaut who led an expedition aboard the Starlight Horizon *. His crew included Lieutenant Laura Bennett, a sharp and quick-thinking communications specialist, and Dr. Ryan Ellis, a quiet but brilliant astrophysicist known for his theories about strange phenomena in space. The Starlight Horizon * was orbiting near Proxima Centauri, one of Earth's closest neighboring stars. The mission was supposed to be routine: map uncharted regions, gather data, and look for signs of habitable planets. But everything changed when their sensors picked up something unusual. It wasn't random noise or cosmic radiation. It was a signal, a rhythmic pulse that repeated in patterns, almost like a heartbeat coming from deep space. At first, the crew thought it might be interference from their own equipment, but further analysis confirmed it was real and artificial. Laura sat at her station, staring at the blinking lines on her screen. She adjusted the settings, trying to clean up the signal so they could understand it better. "This isn't natural," she said finally, breaking the silence in the control room. Her voice carried both excitement and worry. "These patterns are too precise. Someone, or something, is sending this." Daniel leaned over her shoulder, his brow furrowed as he studied the readouts. "Can we trace its origin?" he asked. Ryan stepped closer, holding a tablet filled with calculations. "It's coming from way beyond our current position, probably thousands of light years away. Whoever sent this knew exactly how to make sure it would reach us." For hours, the crew worked tirelessly to decode fragments of the message. They discovered bursts of information embedded within the pulses, mathematical sequences, basic chemical formulas, and even what appeared to be images. It was clear that whoever created the signal wanted to communicate. But why? And what did they want? As the days passed, curiosity turned into unease. Something about the signal felt off. The patterns were beautiful, almost hypnotic, but there was an underlying strangeness that none of them could quite put into words. Laura often found herself staring at the decoded fragments late into the night, unable to shake the feeling that they were missing something important. Back on Earth, news of the discovery spread quickly. Scientists debated whether the signal represented an opportunity or a threat. Some believed it was proof of intelligent life beyond Earth, a chance to connect with another civilization. Others, however, warned of potential dangers. What if the signal was a trap? Or worse, what if whoever sent it didn't share humanity's values? Senator Robert Hayes, a pragmatic politician overseeing space-related decisions, called for an emergency meeting. He listened carefully as experts presented their findings. One scientist, Dr. Megan Collins, urged caution. "We don't know anything about the source of this signal," she argued. Engaging without understanding could have catastrophic consequences. But not everyone agreed. General Aaron Blake, head of Earth's Defense Forces, saw the signal as an opportunity to gain an advantage. "If there's knowledge out there, we need to claim it before anyone else does," he insisted. In the end, Earth decided to act. Without waiting for more analysis, they transmitted a reply back toward the source of the signal, a simple greeting meant to show goodwill. To many, it seemed harmless. To others, it felt reckless. On board the Starlight Horizon *, Daniel watched as Earth's response streaked through space. He couldn't help but wonder if they had made a terrible mistake. Little did he know, that single decision would set off a chain of events that would change everything. For Earth, for humanity, and perhaps for the entire galaxy. Back on Earth, the discovery of the mysterious signal sparked both excitement and fear. News outlets covered the story nonstop, showing interviews with scientists, politicians, and ordinary people sharing their opinions. Some saw it as proof that humanity wasn't alone in the universe, while others worried about what might happen next. The debate grew louder as governments around the world tried to decide how to respond. Senator Robert Hayes, a man known for his calm demeanor and practical approach, found himself at the center of the chaos. He chaired the United Nations Galactic Affairs Committee, a group responsible for making decisions about space-related matters. With so much at stake, he called an emergency meeting to discuss the signal and Earth's reply. The room was packed with experts, scientists, military leaders, and diplomats, all arguing over what should be done. Dr. Megan Collins, a leading xenobiologist, stood up to speak. Her voice was steady but firm. "We don't know who or what sent this signal," she said. "It could be friendly, or it could be dangerous. We're playing with fire by responding without fully understanding what we're dealing with." She urged the committee to pause and study the signal further before taking any more action. But not everyone agreed. General Aaron Blake, the head of Earth's Defense Forces, had a very different opinion. "If there's intelligent life out there, we can't afford to sit back and do nothing," he argued. "This is our chance to learn from them, and maybe even gain an advantage. If we wait too long, someone else might beat us to it." The arguments went on for hours, growing more heated as time passed. In the end, the decision was made to send a reply. Against Dr. Collins' warnings, Earth transmitted a simple message, a greeting meant to show peace and curiosity. It included basic information about humanity, like mathematical concepts and images of Earth. To many, it seemed like a harmless gesture. But to others, it felt reckless, like shouting into the darkness without knowing who might hear. Meanwhile, aboard the Starlight Horizon Asterisk, Captain Daniel Carter and his crew continued to analyze the signal. They had mixed feelings about Earth's decision to reply. Laura Bennett, the communications specialist, spent hours reviewing the decoded fragments, searching for clues about the sender's intentions. "There's something strange about this," she told Daniel one evening. "These patterns are almost alive, like they're trying to teach us something or test us." Daniel nodded thoughtfully. "Let's hope we passed the test," he replied, though his tone suggested he wasn't convinced. As days turned into weeks, the crew began noticing subtle changes in the signal. The pulses became stronger, more frequent, and seemed to carry new layers of complexity. Ryan Ellis, the astrophysicist, spent long nights running simulations, trying to make sense of the data. "It's adapting," he said during one late-night discussion. "Whatever sent this isn't just observing, it's learning." Back on Earth, life went on as usual, for a while. People returned to their daily routines, assuming the signal would lead to nothing more than a scientific breakthrough. But then, reports started coming in from colonies along the edge of human territory. Strange things were happening. Communication systems failing, power grids shutting down, and sightings of unidentified objects moving through space. At first, these incidents seemed isolated, but soon they began to spread. Dr. Collins watched the news with growing dread. "This isn't random," she muttered to herself. "They're probing us." She reached out to Senator Hayes, urging him to take immediate action. But by then, it was too late. The signal had awakened something ancient and incomprehensible, and Earth was about to face the consequences. Unbeknownst to humanity, the reply they had sent wasn't just a message. It was an invitation. And now, whatever had been listening was coming. As the strange occurrences multiplied, panic began to spread across Earth's colonies. Reports poured in from distant outposts, communication systems failing, power grids shutting down, and sightings of shadowy objects moving silently through space. At first, these incidents were dismissed as technical glitches or natural phenomena. But as they grew more frequent and widespread, it became clear that something far more sinister was at play. On board the Starlight Horizon Asterisk, Captain Daniel Carter and his crew found themselves at the forefront of the unfolding crisis. Their sensors detected massive objects approaching Earth's colonies. These weren't ordinary ships. They moved with an eerie precision, defying the laws of physics as humanity understood them. The crew watched in stunned silence as the objects formed a perfect line, heading directly toward Earth. "We need to warn them," Laura Bennett said urgently, her fingers flying over her console as she tried to send a message back to Earth. But every attempt failed. It was as if an invisible barrier had been erected, cutting off all communication. The invaders weren't just advancing. They were isolating Earth, severing its ties with the rest of humanity's presence in space. Daniel paced the control room, his mind racing. "What do they want?" he muttered under his breath. "Why aren't they attacking?" Dr. Ryan Ellis studied the data streaming in from their instruments. "They're not here to destroy us. At least, not yet," he said slowly. "Look at this. They're scanning everything. Our technology, our infrastructure, even our broadcasts. It's like they're studying us." The realization sent a chill through the crew. Whatever these beings were, they weren't acting like conquerors. They were observers, gathering information with cold efficiency. But for what purpose? And what would happen when they finished? Back on Earth, the situation grew increasingly dire. Cities plunged into darkness as power grids collapsed without warning. Phones stopped working, internet connections vanished, and even emergency broadcasts fell silent. Billions of people woke up one morning to find themselves cut off from the modern world. Panic erupted in the streets as people struggled to adapt to life without electricity or communication. Senator Robert Hayes stood in the dimly lit chambers of the United Nations, watching helplessly as global order unraveled. Governments scrambled to respond, but without coordination or resources, their efforts were futile. Military forces mobilized, but their advanced weapons seemed powerless against an enemy that hadn't fired a single shot. Amid the chaos, Dr. Megan Collins worked tirelessly to understand the invaders. She traveled to New York City, where makeshift shelters had been set up for survivors. There, she encountered frightened citizens describing bizarre experiences, visions of vast, otherworldly landscapes, and encounters with shadowy figures that defied description. Many claimed to hear whispers in their minds, voices speaking in languages no one could comprehend. "These aren't hallucinations," Megan told Senator Hayes during a tense meeting. "They're glimpses of the invaders' consciousness. They're inside our minds, prodding us. Not just our technology, but our thoughts, our emotions." Her words sent shockwaves through the room. Humanity wasn't facing a traditional invasion. It was being studied, dissected, and perhaps even altered. The implications were terrifying. What would happen once the invaders finished their analysis? Would they leave, or would they decide to intervene further? As days turned into weeks, Earth existed in a state of limbo. Survivors banded together, relying on old-world skills to survive. Fires lit the night sky as people cooked meals over open flames, and handwritten notes replaced emails and texts. Despite the fear and uncertainty, there were moments of hope. Communities came together, sharing what little they had and finding strength in unity. But overhead, the alien fleet remained ominously silent. They didn't attack, nor did they communicate. They simply lingered, watching, waiting. For Captain Daniel Carter and his crew aboard the Starlight Horizon the question weighed heavily. Was this the calm before the storm? Or had Earth already lost the war without firing a single shot? When the alien fleet finally reached Earth, it did so in complete silence. There were no explosions, no weapons firing, no visible signs of aggression. Instead, the planet fell under an eerie stillness. Satellites stopped working, power grids collapsed, and all forms of electronic communication ceased instantly. Billions of voices were silenced in the span of seconds. Senator Robert Hayes stood in Geneva, staring out of a window as the world around him descended into chaos. Phones went dead mid-call, screens flickered out, and even emergency broadcasts failed. Humanity, once connected by technology, now faced isolation on an unimaginable scale. The silence was deafening. On board the Starlight Horizon Captain Daniel Carter and his crew watched helplessly as Earth succumbed to the invaders' influence. Their ship, equipped with backup systems, remained functional, but they knew it was only a matter of time before the aliens turned their attention to them. Laura Bennett sat at her station, her face pale as she monitored the situation. "They're not just cutting off our tech," she said softly. "They're cutting off everything that makes us, us." Dr. Ryan Ellis nodded grimly. "It's like they're trying to strip away our identity," he added. "No electricity, no communication. What's left? Are we supposed to go back to living in caves?" The crew worked tirelessly to gather data, hoping to understand the invaders' motives. Through their sensors, they observed the massive objects hovering above Earth. These weren't ships in the traditional sense. They were more like living organisms, pulsating with energy and shifting shapes in ways that defied logic. It was clear that humanity was dealing with something far beyond its comprehension. Back on Earth, Megan Collins found herself at the center of the crisis. Stranded in New York City, she worked alongside survivors to make sense of the invaders' actions. People reported strange visions, glimpses of vast, otherworldly landscapes populated by beings unlike anything imaginable. Some described feeling a presence in their minds, whispering thoughts that didn't belong to them. These experiences drove some to madness, while others claimed to gain insights into the aliens' purpose. "They're not here to conquer," Megan explained during a meeting with local leaders. "They're here to study, to learn about us. But I don't think they care about our permission." Her words offered little comfort. As days passed, fear spread like wildfire. Without electricity or modern conveniences, society began to crumble. Cities emptied as people fled to rural areas, seeking safety in smaller communities. Farmers taught city dwellers how to grow food, and blacksmiths showed them how to craft tools. Humanity adapted, but the cost was immense. Despite the despair, there were moments of resilience. Families came together, sharing stories around campfires. Musicians played instruments made from scraps, filling the air with melodies that reminded everyone of what it meant to be human. Even in the darkest times, hope flickered like a candle in the wind. Meanwhile, aboard the Starlight Horizon *, Daniel made a decision. "We can't just sit here and watch," he told his crew. "If we're going to survive this, we need answers, and maybe a way to fight back." Laura and Ryan set to work analyzing fragments of the original signal, searching for clues about the invaders' weaknesses. They discovered patterns embedded within the pulses, mathematical sequences and symbols that seemed to represent thought itself. "This isn't just communication," Ryan realized. "It's cognition. They've embedded themselves into our minds." Their theory gained traction when survivors on Earth reported similar findings. Megan Collins pieced together evidence suggesting that the invaders sought not destruction but integration, a merging of species that humanity wasn't ready for. The idea terrified her. What would happen if the two consciousnesses became one? Would humanity lose itself entirely? As the days stretched into weeks, Earth remained trapped in limbo. The alien fleet lingered overhead, silent and unyielding. For Captain Daniel Carter and his crew, the question loomed large. Was this the end of humanity as they knew it, or was there still a chance to resist and reclaim their future? Desperate for answers, Captain Daniel Carter called an emergency meeting aboard the Starlight Horizon *. The crew gathered in the dimly lit control room, their faces reflecting both exhaustion and determination. "We can't just wait around," Daniel said firmly. "If we're going to survive this, we need to figure out a way to fight back, or at least understand what they want." Laura Bennett nodded, her eyes fixed on the data scrolling across her screen. She had spent countless hours analyzing fragments of the original signal, searching for patterns or weaknesses. "There's something here," she said, pointing to a series of symbols embedded within the pulses. "These aren't random. They're instructions, like a blueprint for thought." Dr. Ryan Ellis leaned closer, his brow furrowed as he studied the information. "You're saying they're not just observing us. They're trying to influence our minds?" he asked. "Exactly," Laura replied. "They're not interested in our technology or resources. They're after something deeper, our consciousness. The realization sent a chill through the crew. If the invaders were probing humanity's thoughts, then resistance wouldn't come from building weapons or shields. It would require understanding the aliens' language and finding a way to disrupt their connection. Back on Earth, Megan Collins worked tirelessly to piece together the same puzzle. Survivors reported increasingly vivid visions, images of vast alien landscapes and sensations of being connected to a collective mind. Some described feeling overwhelmed by emotions that weren't their own, while others claimed to hear whispers guiding them towards strange actions. Megan knew these experiences weren't hallucinations. They were glimpses of the invaders' true nature. "They're integrating us," she explained to a group of survivors huddled around a makeshift campfire. "Not physically, but mentally. They're trying to merge with us, to become one species." Her words sparked fear among the group. "What happens if they succeed?" someone asked. Megan hesitated before answering. "I don't know. Maybe nothing changes, but maybe everything does. We could lose ourselves completely." Determined to stop the integration, Megan focused on decoding the visions. She sketched diagrams based on survivors' descriptions, searching for patterns that might reveal the aliens' intentions. Slowly, she began to see connections between the images and the original signal. It was as if the invaders were using humanity's own thoughts against them, weaving their presence into the fabric of human consciousness. On board the Starlight Horizon Asterisk, Laura and Ryan made a breakthrough. By combining fragments of the signal with data collected from Earth's blackouts, they identified a frequency, a specific pulse that seemed to anchor the invaders' influence. "If we can disrupt that frequency," Laura suggested, "we might be able to sever their connection." Daniel immediately began planning their next move. Using spare parts and experimental equipment, the crew retrofitted the ship with a device designed to emit a counter-frequency. It was risky. If successful, it could drive the invaders away, but it might also cause catastrophic damage to Earth's already fragile systems. As preparations continued, Laura volunteered to return to Earth to coordinate efforts among scattered resistance groups. Armed with portable transmitters, she traveled across the globe, rallying survivors to build relay stations capable of amplifying the disruption signal. Her journey was perilous, but her determination never wavered. "We've lost so much," she told a group of farmers turned engineers. "But we haven't lost hope. That's something they'll never take from us." Meanwhile, Daniel and Ryan finalized plans for the mission. They knew the odds were against them, but they also knew failure wasn't an option. Humanity had been pushed to its limits, but amid the chaos, a spark of resilience remained. Together, they prepared to strike back, not with weapons, but with knowledge. As the day of reckoning approached, Earth braced itself for the unknown. Would the plan work, or would humanity's defiance only provoke further retaliation? For now, all they could do was hold on to hope, and trust that understanding could overcome even the most incomprehensible threat. The day of the final confrontation arrived, and tension hung heavy in the air. Aboard the Starlight Horizon Asterisk, Captain Daniel Carter gave his crew one last briefing before launching their risky plan. "This is it," he said, his voice steady but filled with urgency. "If we succeed, we might break their hold on Earth. But if we fail..." He didn't need to finish the sentence. Everyone understood the stakes. Laura Bennett had already returned to Earth, where she worked tirelessly with resistance groups to set up relay stations. These stations were designed to amplify the disruption signal that Ryan Ellis and his team had developed. Across the planet, survivors came together, building the network with whatever materials they could find. Farmers, engineers, and even children contributed, driven by a shared determination to reclaim their world. As the countdown began, Daniel stood on the bridge of the Starlight Horizon Asterisk, staring at the alien fleet hovering above Earth. The massive objects pulsed faintly, their surfaces shifting like living organisms. They seemed calm, almost indifferent, as if they hadn't anticipated any resistance. Daniel hoped their confidence was misplaced. On Earth, Laura monitored the relay stations from a makeshift command center in an abandoned warehouse. Her hands trembled as she adjusted dials and checked connections. Around her, volunteers held their breath, waiting for the signal to activate. "Ready on your end?" Daniel's voice crackled over the comms. "We're ready," Laura replied, her voice firm despite the fear gnawing at her insides. "Let's do this." At the designated moment, the Starlight Horizon fired its payload, a concentrated burst of energy tuned to the frequency identified by RAN. Simultaneously, the relay stations on Earth activated, amplifying the signal and sending it surging toward the alien fleet. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the sky erupted in blinding light. Explosions lit up the atmosphere as the invaders' ships shuddered and fractured. Their once smooth surfaces cracked, releasing waves of energy that rippled outward. Survivors on Earth shielded their eyes, watching in awe as the alien presence began to collapse. One by one, the ships disintegrated, retreating into the void from which they had come. But victory came at a cost. The disruption signal didn't just sever the aliens' connection, it wiped away residual traces of their influence. Memories of the visions faded, leaving people disoriented and confused. Knowledge gained during the invasion slipped through humanity's grasp like sand through fingers. Megan Collins, who had been so close to understanding the invaders' motives, found herself struggling to recall details of her research. It was as though the aliens had never existed. In the aftermath, Earth faced a long road to recovery. Power grids slowly came back online, and communication systems were rebuilt. Cities buzzed with activity as people worked to restore what had been lost. Yet beneath the surface, scars remained. Trust between nations was fragile, and questions lingered about humanity's readiness to face the unknown. Senator Robert Hayes addressed the United Nations, his voice heavy with emotion. "We made mistakes," he admitted, "but we also showed courage and resilience. Let this be a lesson, that curiosity must always be tempered with caution." Aboard the Starlight Horizon Daniel gazed at Earth from orbit. The planet looked peaceful now, its blue oceans and green continents glowing softly in the sunlight. But he couldn't shake the feeling that their reprieve was temporary. Somewhere out there, beyond the stars, the Council of Alien Minds still watched, observing, learning. When Daniel finally returned to Earth, he was greeted by Laura and a crowd of survivors. They cheered, celebrating the end of the crisis, but Daniel's expression remained somber. Humanity had survived, but at great cost. And as he looked up at the night sky, he knew one thing for certain. Silence no longer meant safety. Months after the alien fleet retreated, Earth began to heal. The scars of the invasion were still visible. Crumbling cities, fields left untended, and families forever changed by loss. But there was a sense of cautious hope. People worked together to rebuild, rediscovering old ways of living while slowly reintroducing technology. Fires lit up the night as communities gathered to share stories, music, and laughter. Humanity had been pushed to its limits, but it had endured. Captain Daniel Carter returned to Earth, greeted by Laura Bennett and a fragile but determined society. Together, they stood on a hill overlooking the small town that had risen from the ashes. The air smelled of fresh earth and burning wood, and children played nearby, their laughter echoing through the valley. For a moment, it felt like the world was returning to normal. But Daniel knew better. The memory of the invasion lingered in his mind, a constant reminder of how close humanity had come to losing everything. Laura looked at him, her expression thoughtful. "Do you think they'll come back?" she asked softly. Daniel hesitated before answering. "I don't know," he admitted. "But if they do, we'll be ready. We've learned a lot about ourselves and about them." Across the globe, Megan Collins continued her work, piecing together fragments of knowledge about the invaders. Though much of her research had been erased by the disruption signal, she refused to give up. She traveled from one community to another, speaking with survivors who had experienced visions during the invasion. Slowly, she began to reconstruct parts of the puzzle. They weren't here to destroy us, she explained during a meeting with local leaders. They wanted to merge with us, to become part of our consciousness. But why? And what happens next? Her questions went unanswered, but they sparked important conversations. Humanity had been humbled by the encounter, forced to confront its own vulnerabilities. Nations that had once competed for power now worked together, sharing resources and ideas. The United Nations Galactic Affairs Committee, led by Senator Robert Hayes, became a symbol of unity dedicated to preparing Earth for future encounters with extraterrestrial life. In the skies above, the Starlight Horizon remained operational, patrolling the edges of human territory. Its crew monitored deep space, searching for any sign of the invaders' return. Daniel often found himself staring at the stars, wondering what lay beyond. He couldn't shake the feeling that the aliens hadn't abandoned their mission. They were simply waiting, observing from a distance. One evening, as Daniel sat alone on the ship's observation deck, Ryan Ellis joined him. "Do you ever wonder what they saw when they looked at us?" Ryan asked, breaking the silence. "All the time," Daniel replied. "Were we just an experiment to them? Or something more?" Ryan sighed, leaning back in his chair. "Maybe we'll never know. But one thing's for sure, we're stronger now. Stronger than we were before." Back on Earth, life moved forward. Farmers planted new crops, teachers reopened schools, and musicians filled the air with melodies that reminded everyone of what it meant to be human. Yet beneath the surface, a quiet vigilance remained. People built telescopes, studied the stars, and listened for any trace of the signal that had once brought chaos to their world. And so, humanity carried on, scared but resilient. The aliens had left behind no monuments or ruins, only memories etched into the minds of those who had lived through the invasion. No council would ever forget the moment Earth fell silent, a reminder of both humanity's fragility and its strength. As Daniel gazed at the stars one last time before heading home, he whispered a silent promise. "We won't make the same mistakes again." Somewhere out there, the Council of Alien Minds waited, watching, learning. And though Earth had survived, Daniel knew the true cost of hubris was written in the stars.